Hi, Public Administration in Perspective. This is a second YouTube about epistemic pluralism. The first was about economics. This one is about public administration. So, the first question is, what is it? I think you can say that epistemic pluralism, a Wittgenstein game, is about upgrading PA theory and practice through a multitude of disciplinary perspectives. Epistemic refers to knowing, and pluralism refers to more than one way, or more than one perspective. It is indeed a Wittgenstein game, relying on Wittgenstein's insight that the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. So, for public administration, an action subject as opposed to a science, what's it for? What's epistemic pluralism for? It's intended to contribute to revitalizing theory and practice by putting PA in perspective. It aims to release PA from its disciplinary cul-de-sac, its iron cage, its cave. It's not that mainstream traditional public administration doesn't produce any valuable results, but with single lenses or too few of them, that can be misleading and limited. Epistemic pluralism seeks to do what Dwight Waldo meant when claiming that, and I quote him, administrative thought must establish a working relationship with every major province in the realm of human learning. Thank you, Dwight. It's valuable for an action subject like PA, no less than for other disciplines. So the first question is, what number of lenses should be used? Should it be minimal or grand? Well, that depends on purpose and circumstances. The most minimal could apply one lens, say neuroscience or economics. A grand version could be like what E.O. Wilson described. He's an evolutionary biologist, as you know. Consilience and the unity of knowledge, uniting the sciences and ultimately joining with the humanities. In an ideal world, public administration would want all lenses. In a world with scarce resources and energy, selection is unavoidable. Well, okay, just take a quickie illustration. Consider planning or managing a Homeland Security program. Imagine that Richard Clarke, 2008, was right that Homeland Security has ceased to work well across the board. And he talks about bloat, the problem of money and effectiveness. Imagine that Kettle is right about telling the truth, about the possibility or the impossibility of honesty about total protection. Can Homeland Security planning and managing benefit from the traditional? Yes, most definitely. Can traditional public administration and Homeland Security have the complete answer? I think not. What could a few different lenses tell Homeland Security? Well, the business lens, for instance, could talk about supply chain management, a thing that public administration is not that up on. Economic history could talk about lobbying and how lobbying and money warps the administration of policies and co-shapes politics, buying contracts and jobs. Post-structural can give information about how the hyper-real works, about how people can get very frightened about this and that with no reliable basis. New rhetoric can talk about how we, in the United States, how we emphasize war in talking about what we do. The war on terror, the war on crime, the war on poverty, the war on cancer. Feminism can give us some help too. For instance, Susan Faludi talked about the retreating into myth after the 9/11 problem and counter-myth. Macho, she would say, was an issue. Neuroscience could help, talking about the neurobiology of fear through the amygdala and so on, and add another perspective. So, this is a book that talks about epistemic pluralism for public administration. And it talks about 5 elements of, actually 6, of public administration that could be attacked. Planning, management, underlying public administration, the scope of the public administration field, and imaginative creativity. And another thing that could be talked about is public administration as a whole. So let's look at these lenses that could be used. The traditional public administration lens is used in that book. Business lens, the economic lens, political science lens, critical theory lens, post-structural lens, psychoanalytic lens, neuroscience lens, feminist lens, ethical lens, and the data or philosophy of science lens. So, for each of these things in the book, there are 10 divisions in each chapter, and 5 have to summarize what the lens is, and then the next 5 look at how PA planning, PA managing, what underlies PA, the PA field, and PA imaginative creativity can learn from that particular lens. If you take, for instance, the psychoanalytic lens, here's some questions for public administration. For planning, shouldn't public administration recognize the unconscious more? For managing, what is psychoanalytic organization theory and how can it grow? For what underlies public administration, is there an unconscious workplace? For the PA field, shouldn't PA expand the interpretation of its narrative? For PA imaginative creativity, where does free association point? Lost it. For public administration as a whole, here's some example of possible implications. From the business lens, again, supply chain management, that's not a strong area in public administration. The leadership cult, or outsourcing. Is it good to outsourcing? When should we stop? Economics lens, what about Ostrom's paradigm? What about the difference between macro public administration and macro public administration? From the political science lens, we can learn more about the influence of money, about practicality, for instance. From the new rhetoric lens, we can learn more about myths and about the idea of cleanliness. Usually we like to write as if everything was neat and certain. Freud has things to say about this, and so does the theory of new rhetoric. Critical theory can offer us ideas like the life world, and also anti-administration fits in there. The post-structural lens can help us think about hyper-reality, normalization. Truth is what is normalized, says Foucault, rather than what is the case. Deconstruction, can that be helpful? NeuroGov is an idea that comes from neuroscience. And the mirror neurons. Why do people get excited about Black Friday? Is it because it's a rational calculation, or is it because everybody else is doing it? The feminist lens can help us think about othering. The philosophy lens can help us with the difference between positive and negative freedom. It can help us think of weird ideas like unengineering. The ethical lens can think about the moral or the technical, and which is preeminent, or it can think about the morality of the technical. The data lens can help us think about how we can have imaginization. Do we want to have hermeneutic or positive studies? Well, the next step after that would be summarizing. Well, maybe we'll just go back to the chart there, because it's a lot. And if we want to do planning, here's some implications. Isn't there help enough from traditional public administration? Well, I think not. What would Osborne and Gabler do? They emphasized the entrepreneur's role and things like that. What about Ostrom's paradigm? Getting away from centralization and from hierarchy. For instance, there's 8 points that he develops. Shouldn't public administration seek emancipation towards the life world? What is deconstruction? No, what is it really? Shouldn't PA planning recognize the unconscious? Shouldn't it recognize the emerging neural society? Shouldn't PA stop othering people, clients and the poor, for instance? Shouldn't administrative input, should it be technical or moral? Should PA use a more judicious combination of positivism and hermeneutics? The same can be said for managing. And there are a list of questions for that. Traditional usually has enough help for short-run managing, but we need to proceed to other aspects. Beyond the summarizing, we need to go to another step, which is to synthesize these things. And for instance,